guy for quietly ruining my parents after they turned my 11-year-old away on Christmas? I arrived home late on Christmas night, expecting to find it empty because my child was supposed to be at my parents' house. A big dinner, cousins, and the sleepover she had been talking about for days as if it were the event of the century. Instead, the first thing I noticed was the smell. Something burning. It was more than a stuck toast or waffle. It smelled like someone had tried to make something special, and it hadn't gone as planned. I walked into the kitchen and saw it immediately. A pan on the stove with something black and charred inside, a plate on the table, a small trail of crumbs, as if someone had moved silently, trying not to make noise. And then I saw what made my stomach clench. Her shoes, her coat. My 11-year-old daughter was home. "Lily," I called out. "Hey," she answered immediately. She was sitting at the dining table in the same clothes she was wearing when I dropped her off earlier. Her shoulders were hunched as if trying to take up less space in her own home. Not crying, no drama. She just looked small. I stared at her for a second, trying to process reality. "You're supposed to be at Grandma and Grandpa's house," I said. "I know." Her voice sounded too flat, as if she had practiced it. "Why are you here?" I asked, keeping my own voice deliberately calm. She blinked slowly. "They turned me away." At first, I didn't understand the sentence, as if my brain refused to accept it. "They turned you away?" I repeated. "At the door." Her fingers tightened around the edge of the plate. "They said there wasn't enough room." I stared at her. "Room for what?" She looked at me as if I had asked her why snow was cold. "For me." And that was when I noticed the gifts. All arranged by the entrance, the bags upright with the tags still on. The tissue paper was still perfectly fluffed, as if she couldn't bear the thought of them looking messy. Even now, the gifts she was so proud of, the gifts we had left the house with. My throat tightened. "Why are the gifts here?" Lily swallowed. "They didn't want them." I felt an intense cold. "Did they tell you to take them back?" I asked. She nodded. I looked at her face, trying to keep my voice even and ask what really mattered. "Why didn't you call me?" She looked down. "My phone was dead," she whispered. I asked Grandma if I could use hers or the house phone. I asked even though I already knew what she was going to say. "And she said no," Lily said, her voice breaking on the last word. "And that they were busy?" "Busy, yeah." "And then Grandpa said I should just walk home," she added as if it were the most normal solution in the world. "Because it's not that far." I stared at her. It's not far when you're an adult who knows the neighborhood. Not when you're carrying gift bags that dig into your hands. Not when you are 11 years old and it's Christmas and every window you pass has a family inside. "How long did you walk?" I asked. "Maybe 20 minutes, she said quietly. At first I didn't really know which way to go because we always drive. A sharp pain settled under my ribs and stayed there. I looked at the stove and then at the plate in front of her. "And this?" I asked quietly. "Did you try to cook?" Her cheeks flushed as if she had been caught stealing. "I got hungry," she whispered. "And I wanted, I don't know, for it to seem like Christmas." That hit harder than the door being slammed in her face. "I watched a video online," she added quickly. "I tried to make a grilled cheese. It just burned." She pointed to the pan. "It's okay." I opened the window. The fact that she was trying to reassure me, as if she were the problem, made my throat ache. I pulled out a chair and sat next to her. "Start from the beginning," I told her gently. She took a deep breath. "You dropped me off and I went up to the door just like you told me." I nodded. Grandma opened the door and she seemed surprised, as if she had forgotten I was coming. I clenched my jaw. Then Aunt Nicole said, "Uh-oh." Lily twisted her mouth. "And Grandma said they were full. There weren't enough chairs." "And your cousins?" I asked, already bracing myself. "They were inside," she whispered. "They could see me." She swallowed hard and kept going anyway. Mason laughed and said my dress looked like curtains. The word hung in the air, bitter. No one stopped him, I asked carefully. Lily shook her head. Grandpa said, "Let's not start any drama." I let out a short breath through my nose because dark humor is what happens when the anger is too big to contain. Right, because letting an 11-year-old girl inside would have been a real scandal. Lily gave a slight, sad half-smile that disappeared instantly. I tried to give Grandma her gift, she whispered. The one I made. My eyes locked on hers. The ornament. She nodded, and tears finally escaped as if she had gotten tired of pretending. I put her name on it, she said. And she didn't even touch it. She just said, "Not now." A sob hit her like a hiccup. She looked away quickly, embarrassed by her own feelings, as if she were the one acting inappropriately. I put my arm around her and pulled her close. She leaned into me immediately, as if she had been standing upright only out of stubbornness. "I'm sorry," she whispered against my sweater. "No," I said quietly. "Don't you apologize for this." She sniffled. "I ruined Christmas." "You didn't ruin anything," I said. "They did." She wiped her face with her sleeve and stared at the plate. "I tried," she whispered. "I really tried." And that summed up all the suffering in a single sentence. She tried to create a Christmas for herself alone in an empty house, because the people who were supposed to love her decided she didn't deserve a chair. I didn't scream. I didn't call my mother and start a shouting match. Lily didn't need to hear that. She didn't need to feel like she had started a war. So I swallowed every harsh word. I hugged Lily a little tighter, and in my head, something clicked into place. I didn't make a scene. I took action. 5 hours later, their life started to fall apart. I wish I could tell you that my parents became like this overnight. It would be comforting in a way, as if they had caught a virus called entitlement and woke up one morning not recognizing their own granddaughter. But this wasn't new. It just finally had the audacity to show itself in public. My sister Nicole was always the favorite. Not in the subtle, parents love all their children differently way. On the scoreboard that might as well have been posted on the family refrigerator, Nicole was older, louder, easier for them. She was the child they had wanted. I was the child who showed up later like an unexpected bill. When I was little, my mother used to say things like, "You're a lot of work." Like some people say, "This suitcase is heavy." Not with cruelty but worse, with indifference. As if it were a natural fact, as if needing care were a character flaw. By the time I was old enough to understand the tone, I understood my role, the burden. And then I got pregnant young, unplanned. The father was present just long enough to make promises before he vanished. I never went to my parents' house to ask them to fund my life. I didn't have the energy. I was too busy with fear, but they treated me as if I had already sent them a bill. My father's first reaction was, "And who is supposed to pay for this?" My mother's was, "You're ruining this family," as if my pregnancy had set the drapes on fire. Once they bought me a baby onesie. My mother held it up as if she had sponsored a small village. "See," she told our relatives. "We help her." Then she went back to her normal life. Nicole, of course, played the concerned sister. She would show up with unsolicited advice and disappear as soon as something required real effort. She cried when it made her look good. She talked about sacrifices she never made. I moved out. I raised Lily alone. I skipped college. I worked an office job because I needed a set schedule and a steady paycheck. I took night classes at the community college when I could. The kind where you eat dinner out of a plastic container in your car and pretend it's normal. It wasn't glamorous. It was survival. And honestly, surviving suited me better than begging. The only person who didn't treat me like a mistake was my grandmother, Evelyn. She never asked me why I wasn't more careful. She never made me apologize for needing help. She just showed up when she could. Grandma wasn't perfect. She was blunt, she was frugal to the point of comedy. Once she told me, "If you buy something at full price, you deserve whatever happens to you." As if it were a moral principle. But she was love in a family that considered love a limited resource. As she grew older, she developed problems with her legs. Pain, weakness, the kind that makes short distances feel like mountains. She was still sharp as a tack. She could still roast you with a single sentence, but moving became harder, and my parents acted as if she were a nuisance. They would call to check on her and then brag about it. They would visit her once a month, take a picture, and post it online with captions like, "Family is everything." Then they would leave and not come back. Nicole was the same. If Grandma was a person, Nicole forgot she existed. If Grandma was an inheritance, suddenly Nicole cared deeply. I was the one who took her to her doctor's appointments, who brought her groceries, who learned how to help her up safely so she wouldn't fall. I even took a short caregiving course because I was sick of feeling like I was guessing with someone I loved. It saved me money, it made me useful, it made my grandmother feel less helpless, which was more important than any certification. And the more time I spent with her, the more I noticed something uncomfortable. My parents treated my grandmother the way they treated me. Like a burden, like a chore, like something you tolerate until you can go back to your real life. Meanwhile, my grandmother helped them financially, quietly, as she always did, without bragging, without showing off. At some point, my parents moved into a house that everyone in the family called the house Grandma gave them. That phrase became gospel. Grandma gave them the house. Grandma wanted them to have space for the family. My parents started talking about it as if it were theirs by divine right, and after receiving it, they visited Grandma even less. It was almost impressive how they treated generosity as a stamp of approval, as if once Grandma gave them something, she no longer had value. Meanwhile, my grandmother lived in a small rented apartment by her own choice. She said it was easier, that there was less to clean and less to worry about. She didn't want to have to manage such a big place by herself. She liked comfort, not attention. And that was why Christmas was so important. Grandma couldn't join the big celebration this year. Her legs were worse. The idea of a house full of people, stairs, and chaos was too much. My parents didn't offer to go to her, they didn't offer to bring dinner, they didn't even offer to FaceTime her until I suggested it. So I chose her. And I also chose Lily, allowing her to have the big family Christmas she had dreamed of so much. My parents' house was always elegant and organized, just how Lily loved it. The kids' friends were invited. Games, cookies, a cousin's sleepover that seemed like a rite of passage. Lily put her whole heart into those gifts. She saved up her allowance, she made things, she worried about what people would like. She was proud of it. She didn't mind that I wasn't going because for her it was still family. That was what made it so devastating when they told her she should celebrate with someone else. There weren't enough chairs, there wasn't enough room, there wasn't enough space for her. And while they sat at the table, satisfied with their perfect Christmas, they didn't know what was already starting to crumble. That night I had two tasks. Make my daughter whole again and stop my parents from hurting her more, while she was still hurting inside. Lily didn't get dramatic. That was the problem. She moved through the kitchen as if trying not to disturb the air, as if she didn't deserve to take up space in her own home. I didn't lecture her about the stove. I didn't point at the burned pan as proof of why one shouldn't cook alone. We could talk about safety later. Tonight the biggest emergency was her shame. So I did what mothers do when they can't find the right words. I made hot chocolate and pretended I wasn't furious enough to punch a hole through the drywall. Extra marshmallows because trauma is no time for moderation. Lily was sitting at the table with her mug in her hands, as if it were the only warm thing left in the world. Every few minutes her gaze landed on the gifts lined up by the door. Still perfect, still unwanted. I caught myself thinking, I should drive over there. I should call. I should force them to tell me to my face. And then I would look at my daughter's shoulders, how tense they were, how small she had become, and I would swallow it because I wasn't going to turn her night into a soundtrack of screaming. Then my phone buzzed. Grandma Evelyn. It wasn't a long or conversational call. Grandma Evelyn wasn't very chatty, unless she was giving you advice you didn't ask for. She was practical, efficient. I answered and put it on speaker because my hands were full, and because Lily's face lit up when she heard the ringtone. Hey Grandma, put me on video so I can see you, she said immediately. No hello. Grandma didn't waste time on greetings when she could be efficient with love, so I switched to video. Grandma appeared on my screen with her glasses on, and that look she got when she was about to correct someone's pronunciation. Lily leaned toward the phone as if it were a window. Merry Christmas, Great-Grandma, she said, trying so hard to sound normal that I got a lump in my throat. Grandma's face softened. Merry Christmas, honey. Lily smiled. It lasted half a second. Then her face crumpled and the tears appeared anyway. Silent, stubborn tears that she didn't want anyone to see. Grandma didn't miss it. Grandma never missed anything. What happened? She asked calmly, but with a sharp edge, as if her brain had already started putting the pieces together. Lily looked at me with that childish panic. Don't get anyone in trouble. And yet she cracked because the truth doesn't stay trapped forever. They didn't let me in, she whispered. Grandma's expression froze. Who? Grandma and Grandpa, Lily said, and her voice broke. They said there was no room and they didn't take the gifts. Grandma blinked once slowly. Lily wiped her face quickly. I tried to use their phone, she added, as if she needed to justify herself. Mine was dead. I asked. They said no. Grandma pursed her lips. And you walked home? Grandma asked. Lily nodded. Grandpa said it wasn't far. Grandma didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. She looked directly at my daughter through the screen and said, Honey, listen to me. You did not do anything wrong. Nothing. Lily made a small sound as if she wanted to crawl inside those words and live there. Grandma continued. You were polite. You brought gifts. You showed up. If anyone should be ashamed, it's the people who leave a child standing on their doorstep. Lily's chin trembled. I pulled her closer with my arm and she leaned into me as if she had been holding herself up only by pride. Grandma's gaze turned to me. Chloe. Yes, I said, already prepared. Her voice sharpened. I gave them that house so they would have space for the family. Space for the family. I didn't interrupt, I didn't guide her. I didn't give her instructions. I just sat there holding my child, letting Grandma connect the dots. Grandma's eyes narrowed. And they used that space to turn away my great-granddaughter. I felt a knot in my stomach because when Grandma got quiet, people suffered consequences. I will not allow it, Grandma said. Mom. I started automatically because I wasn't trying to light a match near gasoline. No, she interrupted me. My legs hurt. That's all. My brain works just fine. I know, I said quietly. Grandma's voice became even calmer. I'm going to undo it. I blinked. Undo what? The house, she said. I stared at the screen. Grandma, you can't just take back a house. Grandma's lips twitched. You'd be surprised what can be done when people don't read the fine print. It sounded like a riddle. It sounded like a promise. Lily sniffled and wiped her face again, trying to pull herself together as if she hadn't just been told she didn't deserve a chair. Grandma softened when speaking to her. Finish your hot chocolate, she ordered gently. And next Christmas, you will be where you are supposed to be. Lily nodded with a small, careful gesture. We ended the call a minute later. Grandma told Lily she loved her. My grandmother told me to lock the doors. She never missed a chance to assume the world was full of criminals, including my parents. After that, I focused on the only thing that mattered. My daughter made it through the rest of the night without letting the shame settle into her bones. We watched a movie. We sat under a blanket. Lily fell asleep in that exhausted way kids do when they have held it together for too long. And then before midnight, before my brain could finish processing Grandma's comment about the paperwork, my phone rang again. It was my mother. I answered and she didn't even inhale. What did you do? No hello. No, is Lily okay? Just pure panicked rage. I pulled the phone away from my ear. What are you talking about? Don't play dumb, my mother snapped. Grandma called us on Christmas. She says the house isn't ours and we have to move out. My stomach dropped. What? I said honestly. You think this is funny, she yelled. While we were all celebrating, you went over there to poison her against us. I didn't. You're a snake, she spat. You've always been jealous. You've always wanted what we have. I stared at the dark kitchen, the burned pan, the gifts lined up like a silent witness. I don't know what Grandma told you, I said carefully, but I didn't plan anything. I didn't even know. Oh please, my mother snapped. You've been hovering around her like a vulture. Something in me went cold and clear. My daughter came home tonight, I said quietly. She was turned away at your door. She walked home alone with gifts you refused to accept. There was a pause, half a second of silence where I could almost hear her mind searching for a way for that not to matter. Then she hissed, "Don't change the subject." You excluded a child, I said. On Christmas. We didn't have enough chairs, she snapped, without a hint of remorse. You're raising her to be dramatic just like you. She stood on your doorstep, I said, controlling every word. And you didn't even let her use your phone. My mother's voice rose. You should have had her with you. So you were the one who abandoned her. Her audacity was almost impressive, and then she said it as if she had been holding it in her mouth for years, waiting for a reason. We should have cut you out a long time ago. As if Lily's Christmas were just collateral damage in a larger project of punishing me for existing. I said quietly, "You're not going to rewrite what you did." My mother laughed, a short, ugly sound. "You think you've won? You think Grandma is stable?" Then in a voice that made my hair stand on end, she added, "We'll take care of her." The line went dead. I stood in the kitchen staring at the phone as if it had turned into an animal. Grandma had said she would undo something. My mother was terrified. My daughter was sleeping down the hall with faint traces of tears still on her face, and I still didn't understand how all this was possible, only that something had started to move and my parents were already trying to grab the wheel. The next morning I called Grandma Evelyn. No answer. I called again. Nothing. That alone didn't make me panic immediately. Grandma was many things. Tech-savvy was not one of them. Sometimes she left her phone in a drawer and forgot it existed. But it didn't sit right with me. I tried again. Still no answer. Lily came into the kitchen rubbing her eyes, her hair standing on end as if she had fought a pillow and lost. "Did great-grandma call?" she asked quietly. "No," I said softly. "Not yet." Lily pursed her lips. "She's mad at me." My heart broke. "No, honey, no. None of this is your fault." Lily looked like she wanted to believe me, but shame doesn't go away just because you say so. "Let's go see her," I said. "Okay. We'll bring her that hot cocoa mix she likes." Lily's face softened a little. "Okay." We drove to Grandma Evelyn's apartment mid-morning. It was quiet, as if the world were still recovering from Christmas. I knocked on the door. I knocked again. No answer. I tried calling her from the porch. Still nothing. "Maybe she's sleeping?" Lily offered. "Maybe," I said, but my hand was already reaching for my keychain. Grandma had given me a spare key for emergencies, and her definition of emergency included, "If I don't answer the phone and you get annoying." I opened the door and went in. The apartment was too quiet. It wasn't the silence of an old person napping. It was an absolute empty silence. I walked through the living room calling her name. No answer. Then I saw what was missing. Her wheelchair was not by the wall where it always was. The blanket she used every night was gone from the chair. A small overnight bag that sat by the door was gone. I gasped. Lily's voice came from behind me, faint. "Where is she?" "I don't know," I said. My voice sounded like it belonged to someone else. I walked out with shaking hands and went straight to the neighbor across the hall. She opened the door in a robe with her hair in a clip, wearing that face people make when they are about to say something they know you're not going to like. "Oh, honey," she said before I could speak. "Your mother was here." My stomach dropped. "When?" "Early," she said. "Like crack of dawn early. I was taking out the recycling. There was a car out front." "Did Grandma go with them?" I asked, and I hated how my voice sounded. Too controlled, too polite. As if asking about a package. The neighbor hesitated. "They had her chair." "Your mother was talking fast." "Your grandmother didn't look happy." "Did she say where they were taking her?" I asked. The neighbor shook her head. "No, I didn't hear that part." "I'm sorry." "Of course not. People like my mother don't announce where they are taking you when you have no choice." I thanked the neighbor because apparently I am the type of person who says thank you while her life is falling apart. Then I went back to Grandma's apartment and stood there for a half a second trying to decide how to breathe. Lily was by the door clutching the box of cocoa mix as if it were a weapon. "They did it," she started. "I don't know," I said. And then because she is 11 and her brain goes 1,000 miles an hour, I added immediately, "She's alive. She's fine. We're going to find her." I couldn't believe my own calm voice. I was just borrowing it for a little while. I called my mom and it went to voicemail. I called again and got the answering machine. I called my dad and got the answering machine. I stood in my grandmother's empty apartment, looking at the phone as if staring at it hard enough would make it start behaving. Lily tugged on my sleeve. Could they have taken her to their house? It was the first sensible idea anyone had said all morning. So we drove. The whole way, I kept checking my mirrors as if the world had suddenly become unsafe in a way I couldn't identify. Lily sat silently staring at her lap, and I could feel her trying to behave so I wouldn't fall apart. When we pulled into my parents' driveway, I didn't even turn off the engine like I usually do. I just killed it and got out. I banged hard on the door. My mother opened it as if she had been waiting for me, her face already prepared for battle. "Where is Grandma?" I asked. She narrowed her eyes. "Lower your voice." I stared at her. "Where is Grandma?" "She's fine," my mother bristled. "And you're not coming in here to bother her." "I'm not here to argue," I said, my voice carrying that coldness one feels when trying not to explode in front of a child. "I'm here to see my grandmother." My mother stood in the doorway like a bouncer. "After what you did?" "I didn't do anything," I said. "Except come home and find my daughter sitting alone with burned food because you wouldn't let her in." "Don't start," my mother whispered harshly. "I'm not starting," I said. "I'm finishing." Lily stood still behind me. My mother looked at her and then looked away as if eye contact might make her feel something. "Your grandmother is resting. She doesn't need your drama." "Let her tell me that," I said. "Let her tell me herself." My mother's lips pressed into a thin, tight line. "No." That single word was the moment everything changed. Not because I expected my mother to be reasonable. I knew her. But because she was physically stopping me from even seeing Grandma. That's not family drama, that's control. I pulled out my phone again and dialed 911. My mother's face twitched. "Are you serious?" "Yes," he hissed. I didn't blink. "I'm serious." She made a noise as if I were embarrassing her, which honestly was a nice break from her usual habit of shaming me. I requested a welfare check, telling the operator exactly what I knew. My elderly grandmother had been taken from her home. My mother had taken her early that morning, and my family was refusing to allow me to confirm she was okay or even speak to her. I didn't give a speech, I didn't theorize, I just presented facts. Lily's hand slipped into mine while we waited. Small, cold, trusting. When the officers arrived, my mother immediately adopted her concerned citizen voice. "Oh, thank goodness," she said brightly, as if this were a neighborhood meeting. "There has just been a misunderstanding." The officer didn't smile. "We need to see your mother, ma'am." My mother's face tightened. "She's resting." "We still need to see her," he said. The same tone, not rude, just non-negotiable. My mother hesitated just long enough for my heart to pound. Then she stepped aside as if she were being personally oppressed. Grandma was in the back room in her wheelchair, with a blanket over her lap. Her eyes were piercing. As soon as she saw me, something in my chest loosened so hard it almost hurt. Relief hit me first and then anger. Just after, Lily made a small sound and moved forward before I could stop her. Grandma reached out and took her hand as if she had been waiting for that proof of life. "There you are," Grandma said, her voice raspy. Lily nodded with tears already forming. "I thought you were mad." Grandma's eyes flashed. "I'm mad at the right people." One of the officers crouched down a little. "Ma'am, are you okay? Are you here because you want to be?" Grandma didn't hesitate. "No." My mother intervened. "She has been confused." Grandma turned her head slowly and said, "If you interrupt me again, I will add it to the list." The officer looked at Grandma. "Do you want to leave?" Grandma looked at me. "Yes." Now my mother's mouth opened and closed. Opened again. It was like watching someone realize their favorite puppet had learned how to cut its own strings. The officers didn't lecture anyone, they didn't give a courtroom monologue. They just created space. Literally and figuratively, they made it clear to Grandma that she could leave, and when she passed my mother, she didn't even look at her. That silence said more than any scream ever could. I got my grandmother into my car. Lily climbed in next to her without being asked and held her hand as if anchoring her to the planet. Grandma looked at me and said, "Call my lawyer." Grandma called her lawyer. He agreed to see us that day. I drove. Her lawyer didn't mince words. He looked at me and said, "This is what your family has been calling a gift." He slid a folder across the desk. "The house is not in your parents' name," he said. "It's owned by your grandmother's living trust. Your parents were listed as beneficiaries, which means they were meant to receive it upon your grandmother's passing. But as long as Grandma is alive, she can amend the trust and change the beneficiaries. My stomach turned. So they have been acting as if it already belonged to them. They have been acting in many ways, Grandma muttered. Her lawyer didn't even blink. Grandma can also change the distribution of her other assets, her savings, her accounts. It's all the same principle. Beneficiaries can be updated. Grandma says they don't get a reward for turning a child away at the door. He asked her some direct, quiet, respectful questions, simply to confirm she understood what she was signing and that no one was pressuring her. Grandma answered as if personally offended that the world demanded proof she still had her wits about her. Then he printed what needed to be printed. Grandma signed, the witnesses signed, the pages were initialed, and just like that, the names my parents thought were immovable ceased to be. My name went where theirs had been. Lily's future was protected along with it because my grandmother was not just angry. She was deliberate. Lily sat close the whole time in silence, holding Grandma's hand as if afraid someone would drag her away again. When it was over, Grandma looked at her lawyer and said, "Now I want them away from me." He nodded once, already grabbing another set of documents. Grandma stared at me. "I gave them space," she said. "They used it to make a child feel small." Lily's eyes filled with tears, but this time she didn't look ashamed. She looked relieved. Grandma squeezed her fingers. "Next Christmas," she told her, "you won't be standing on anyone's doorstep." Fast forward to the next Christmas. Lily and I are in the house my parents used to call theirs, not because I wanted a trophy, but because my grandmother wanted the truth reflected on paper. The place is worth about $350,000 and she moved in with us after everything fell apart. We made it accessible for someone in a wheelchair. A ramp, wider doors, grab bars in the bathroom, and a bedroom on the ground floor. It's funny how a lack of space magically becomes plenty of space when it's not being used to punish people. Grandma also had about $200,000 saved up. She changed the beneficiaries on everything. Part of it went into a dedicated fund for her care. The rest went where she wanted. A fund for Lily's college and a future she doesn't have to beg for. My parents got exactly what they earned. Nothing. They tried to call, to apologize, to blame, to change the narrative. That is how history changes. I don't answer. Lily is different now, quieter, but in a calm way, not in a way that makes herself small so she won't be rejected. And Grandma is still sharp, still stubborn, and still very, very pleased with herself. Comment. This story is a powerful reminder that true family isn't just about blood, but about who shows up for you with unconditional love. It shows us the incredible strength in standing up for those who have been wronged, not with anger, but with quiet determination. Ultimately, it's about choosing kindness and respect, and creating a circle of love where everyone truly has a seat at the table. I hope it encourages us all to cherish and protect the people who make our lives feel like home. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.